20th meeting of the Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, starting with Sarah.
Sarah Locke.
Joshua Dykstra.
Pizza Brass.
Pat Cocherella.
Carl Bouchard.
Jason Swan. Diamond Rose.
Kevin McSherry.
Steve McCary.
Jessica Canal.
Okay. I don't have any particular comments tonight, other than remember to talk into your microphones. Okay, approval of minutes.
Just a point of order. Public hearing.
The public hearing.
That's the regular minutes, or the regular agenda, rather.
Okay, I've got the public hearing on this one.
Yeah, but it's 7 o'clock. Don't touch. It's over here someplace.
Here's
Your
your,
birthday, yes, that I
and
saw.
then, oh, Steve put all
He
this.
doesn't have the.
Okay,
He has all this right here.
okay, that,
There's the agenda.
it was out of order, all right. All right, then we're gonna do the public hearing for Z-25-025. Okay. All right, the intent of the public hearing, to have the applicant and/or his authorized representatives present to the commission and to the public all information that is either necessary or pertinent to the application, to hear questions from commission members and/or staff relevant to the application for the applicant's response, to hear questions and/or input from the public relevant to the aspects of this application only, including comments in favor of or opposed to the application, general comments or questions which are fielded by the chairman, to the applicant for response, if appropriate. Those people wishing to speak are requested to sign in with the commission on the sign-in sheet for the secretary. Those who wish to speak may do so upon recognition of the chairman, upon stating their name, address, and interest in the application. All speakers will be allowed a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Speakers may not speak again until all others have had the opportunity to speak. Want to read the calls?
Town of Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission, legal notice, public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. on the following application. Z-25-030, 12 North Larkey Road and Jacks Hill Road. Owner and applicant, 12 North Larkey LLC, 1149 Old Waterbury Road, Southbury, Connecticut. Application, proposed self-storage facility. Special exception per Article 9.3.23. The public hearing will be held in the main meeting room of the SB Church Memorial Town Hall located at 486 Oxford Road, Oxford, Connecticut. At the meeting, interested persons shall be heard and written communications received. A copy of the application is on file in the Planning and Zoning Department and accessible during regular business hours. You may also request a copy of the application by emailing pnz@oxford-ct.gov. The Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Department's regular business hours are Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Dated at Oxford, Connecticut, this 23rd day of April, 2025, by Jessica Pennell, Coordinator, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Does any member of the commission have any conflict of interest with this application?
No.
Roll call, no. Do not.
Pat Cocherella, no.
Carl Bouchard, no.
Jason Swan, no.
Does the applicant feel any member of the commission has a conflict of interest?
No, we do not.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ron Wolf, professional engineer representing the applicant, 12 North Larkey LLC. With me this evening is Dale Hardesty, one of the owners. I'd like to submit the certificate of mailings for the record for the public hearing. And start with overview of the project. So it's located at the northeast, on the northeast corner of North Larkey Road and Jacks Hill Road. You can see this is an existing conditions map here. North Larkey Road is running left to right, and I'm sorry, Jacks Hill Road running left to right, North Larkey Road running north-south. Pardon?
Mr. Chairman, the audience member is requesting to be able to see the display.
Put that up, or?
I could try and turn it.
I know, it's supposed to be, it's presenting to us, but I'd like to accommodate the public as much as I can.
I don't know. Where else I could put it here.
Okay.
As you can see, the lot is primarily open. There's some small vegetation growing on it. It essentially slopes from the east towards the west. There is a little portion of the northeast corner of the property that does slope towards the northeast corner of the lot. The property has an overall area of 3.51 acres, and it is situated in the industrial zoning district. It was part of a two-lot subdivision approved by this commission back in 2002. And what the applicant is proposing is 6 storage buildings, self-storage facility with 6 individual buildings, for a total of 44,200 square feet of indoor storage. Building 1 is situated all the way to the right of the property, or on the east side. Building 6 is all the way to the west side. There's a small office located on the south end of Building 6 for 1 employee. We have a total of 17 parking spaces proposed. There are 15 required. We have 2 extra. We have 25-foot wide aisles in between the buildings. And on the north and south ends, we have 30-foot wide aisles just to allow for better turning movements. There'll be a fence around the entire perimeter of the property with a gate at each entrance. The main entrance being on Jacks Hill Road with a service entrance on North Larkey Road. We have trees and shrubs proposed along the frontage of Jacks Hill Road. And as you may know, there's an existing row of arborvitaes that was planted along the frontage of the property on North Larkey Road. If anybody's been by there, there's some fairly mature arborvitaes planted along, for the most part, that entire frontage, with the exception of a gap, a small gap that we're proposing to fill in with 2 pine trees. I believe they're pine trees. I'm sorry, they're firs, fir trees. And there's just a gap there because there's an existing driveway there now. There's also a stone wall that is along the frontage of North Larkey Road. On the easterly side, we're proposing to maintain the existing wood line and the vegetation along the easterly property line. It's pretty heavily wooded, and we're not proposing to go into that area with any grading. So we're proposing to maintain that. And I'd like to discuss the drainage system a little bit with you. We did receive approval from the Wetlands Commission and WPCA. Nafis and Young has reviewed the drainage system, and we incorporated a few of their comments, but essentially what we have is a drainage system that consists of catch basins and pipe. There are 2 hydrodynamic separators proposed that will treat the stormwater. And then from there, the stormwater is routed to an underground detention system that consists of plastic storage chambers. Then that is used to essentially control the release of the stormwater so that we're maintaining the pre-developed flow. and then we connect back into the existing drainage system on the corner of North Larkey Road and Jacks Hill Road. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
When the,
Sure. Okay. Let's see. I can put up some renderings of the buildings that we have submitted with the application. Your typical storage buildings. And another rendering. The site will be paved. With that, I think I've pretty much touched on everything that I have. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Hello? You gotta be loud mouth, that's
Will do.
all.
I guess so.
You got us talking to the top of it,
Yeah.
too.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Jess.
all set. Start with the commission. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time? Anyone?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Is the area around all the buildings gonna be fenced?
It is. There is a fence that goes around the perimeter of the, there is a fence that goes around the perimeter of the parking area, and then it connects to a gate at each entrance. But the entire property would be
What kind of
fenced.
fence is it?
It would be a stockade fence. Or some type of a privacy fence. I do believe we have the details on the plan, but I will double check. So we have typical fence details shown on sheet 8. I would just have to confirm with the applicant prior to the next hearing if that's the fence that he intends to use around the whole property or if that's just for the dumpster enclosure. But we will confirm with them.
And will there be lighting throughout all evening hours?
We do have a lighting plan that's in your package that was prepared by a lighting designer, and it shows all the analysis of the photometrics.
And it will stay on throughout the night?
Let's see. I think it would only be on during business hours when the units are opened. We did submit a statement of use with the proposed business hours on it. I would also just have to confirm that with the applicant, what the intent for the lighting would be.
I see in your statement of use that the hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Is that when the public is allowed in?
Yes, that's typically what we found other self-storage facilities, their operating hours to be, and that's when we would like to have the facility open.
There's none on any of the plans, but ask.
Outside storage?
Just what you see on the plan here is there's 15 or 17 parking spaces proposed, and there's no additional, at this time, there's no additional outside storage proposed.
You won't have no vehicles stored outside.
Not at this time, nope. If there were to be, we would have to return back to this commission. But we just have the parking spaces.
Sarah?
Through the chair, just wanted to clarify that the renderings we have here are just to give us a feel for the building. It's not the actual setup, because I noticed that the renderings have more buildings than what your
Yeah, the
site
building,
plans show.
the building manufacturer provides these to us until the project is approved, and then they move to a final design. But this is gives a good feel for what the buildings would look like,
Okay,
as far as height and scale and size.
thank
The
you.
actual sizes are confirmed on the site plan drawings.
Is there anything else from the commission? Kevin?
Tell us how the building is going to be facing on the property, which road it's going to be facing, what's the front of the building?
So the front, they're orientated in the north-south direction here. North is at the top of your map. Essentially, we lined it up so it had good circulation. So the main entrance, Jacks Hill Road, is in line with this easterly aisle. And then you have your 25-foot wide aisles in between the buildings. They run north-south. And then you have your 30-foot aisle at each end. And then you have your egress or your service entrance on North Larkey also.
The sidelines of the building if we treat North Larkey Road as a sideline,
Yep.
will there be a storage entrance from that side?
No, no doors on that side.
Same question on the opposite side of that?
On this side?
Yes.
Yeah, there are no doors proposed on that side.
So there'd be more or less a masonry look.
Masonry or the metal siding, yes.
Regulations do call for something that looks like masonry or is a masonry sort of sign light in the last portion of section 9.
We'll bring that to the company's attention.
Section 9.14.1, 9.14.2, facade of all buildings that are visible from the street or other public areas shall be of some architecturally treated masonry or treatment approved by the commission. Probably something similar to what you have on North Larkey Road, that sort of look, or on the other front.
We'll get a little more detail on that for the next hearing.
Sarah?
Was looking at the page that shows the lighting, and I know that you had said you'll give us more details about the fencing, but will the fencing be able to stop light trespass
There's
of
no
the property?
There's no light trespassing.
I notice it goes down to whatever 2.5
It goes
FCR.
around the perimeter of the property, it's all zero lumens, so,
Okay.
yeah, it's
I
zero.
saw red lines and blue lines, I did not see.
Yeah, those are the different levels, but if you look at all the little numbers around the property lines, they're all essentially zero.
Okay,
You have,
thank you.
on Jacks Hill Road, you have like a .1, but they're all essentially zero.
Thank you, my eyes are not that good.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Anyone else on the commission?
Real quick, to clarify, just to clarify, what was the fencing material again?
We'll confirm that for the next meeting. We have a detail on the drawing, but I just have to confirm that with the owner that.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, going out to the public, do we have the list?
Yes, we do. There's more people that want to sign.
Okey dokey. Got your PT in for today. What?
Roseanne Quack,
Quawks.
Quack,
Quawks, yes. Hi, Roseanne Quawks, 582 Putting Green Lane, here in Oxford. I had a couple of questions. Is there any problems in the area there for any of the homeowners that are there now as far as water problems? That's something to ask, because I heard him say that he's going to have catch basins and plastic containers that hold how much water?
Okay.
And if, just little questions I'll put out and you folks can talk about it
Yeah.
after?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And if those catch basins overflow, what would be the problem to the abutters for that? And the hours of operation, what are the hours of operation there now? Is it 7 to 9 for, like, say, your noise ordinance?
That's what they're requesting.
That's what they're requesting. But what's the noise ordinance now? 7 to what for a business?
That's an ordinance. It's not part of our regulation. Noise is an ordinance. It's not part of the zoning regulations.
It's not part of zoning,
Right, it's a town ordinance.
a town ordinance, but they would have to adhere to that.
They would have to adhere to that.
And if it's from 7 to 9, is there going to be an employee there at 9 o'clock to tell the people using the units that they have to leave? Will there be an employee there from 7 to 9?
We'll ask that.
Okay. Also, the hours of operation. How much sheet flow is there from all the impervious, from all the buildings and the parking lot? Will that be a runoff problem for any wetlands or any abutters?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, and notification. And I heard that Mr. McSherry say that anything facing the street has to have an architectural component to it. If the other buildings were all, if the metal part of the buildings were all green, that would be great, because that would fit into the natural, the trees and the shrubbery in the area. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to answer these as they come up, or do you want to wait and answer them all?
Okay, I'd like to try and answer some of these. I'm not aware of any drainage problems. We certainly wouldn't be draining anything out onto the road. All our runoff is directed to the interior of our site, into the catch basins. And the drainage system consists of drainage, catch basins, pipe, and it's an underground detention system. And it's designed to provide a zero increase in runoff for all the different storm events, from a 2-year to 100-year storm. So we collect all the stormwater from the building roofs and the pavement and some of the surrounding area. We collect it, we route it through this underground system, and we release the flow at a controlled rate to kind of mimic what the existing flow patterns are. And then it gets released back into the town drainage system. So there wouldn't be any sheet flow off the site. It would all be within the site and collected by the catch basins. It's not really a plastic container. It's all underground, essentially. So you wouldn't see anything like that. But there wouldn't be any runoff leaving the site. We had proposed the operating hours from 7 to 9. I think you all may know self-storage facilities are about as low impact use as there is. There's very little traffic. There's hardly any cars ever there. We've done a few of these, and just if there's 1 or 2 cars there at any given time, that's about the maximum you'll see. Very little traffic in and out. As far as the self-storage facilities, they're a very low-impact use. It's not like there's a lot of traffic or cars there at any given time. For a facility like this, you may see 2 or 3 cars there at any given time. You can look around at some other ones in town or in the area. We've done a few of them, and there's just hardly very, very low use in traffic, so.
Just, I believe there was an additional question about, will there be plans to staff the facility during full hours of operation?
I believe there would be a person on staff in the office. One of the owners would have an employee there. Some of these facilities, though, are not staffed the whole time. They have key cards that you go in with pads that allows you access into the gate and then to your unit. Doesn't necessarily have to be staffed during complete hours. That's kind of up to the owner's discretion and how they manage the facility, if it's fully automated or if it's, has an employee there.
Diana Corbett?
Hi. So I'm Diana Corbett, 99 Jacks Hill Road. So we are the house that is directly next to what is being built or proposed to be built. I have a couple questions and then also a couple of concerns. So one of the questions is, how long is it going to take, estimate all the construction to build it? Who is it open to? Is it open to the public? And if there is just one person, how is the facility monitored, being that it's next to residential homes? I know that some of the facilities in our town, they're not directly next to a home. So how is that going to be monitored? And for safety concerns. I have 2 small children, and I know directly across the street there's 3 small children and another small child. That raises a lot of safety concerns for us. Who's coming in and out of the facilities? The hours 7 to 9, my kids are very young, that's a very long time, and for bright lights. And I know he did say that it's very heavily wooded in between our home and where the facility would go. It's not. There's a few trees, but I would not say it's heavily wooded. It's not very private. My husband and I are not inclined to, we don't have the money to put up all those privacy trees so that people aren't looking into our homes. Also, you're saying the entrance is on Jacks Hill Road, which is right next, not directly next to, but very close to our driveway. So it's a lot of traffic coming in and out when we have a 4- and a 5-year-old. So I think that's some of my concerns. The safety issues. Just really concerning about who's around our home and being monitored. I don't know.
Thank you.
Eliza Sosa.
Well, let him answer anything she
Oh,
wants.
I'm
He's
sorry.
going to answer these as we speak. That was his preference.
I would, these facilities, they recently put one up in Woodbury on Route 6. It was about a 6 to 8 month process for them to do the site work and get the buildings up. They're relatively simple buildings. They don't have a lot of infrastructure, just electricity. It's not a lot of underground utility work and whatnot. And the site is relatively level and cleared, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a relatively straightforward site. So I think, 8 months is a good time frame to use as a guide for construction on one of these facilities. It would be open just to the general public, was another question I think you had. So yes, it would be open. And it would have a camera, like a monitoring system, for security cameras. And we maintain, as far as the vegetation, the trees are along the Jacks Hill Road frontage. We do have a fair amount of trees and shrubs proposed, as you can see along the street. And that street line is pretty heavily wooded now. So You're,
Speak
wood-
out,
I'm
please.
sorry, you're on the east side? Yeah, so that whole property line is wooded now.
Please do not speak out.
So, yeah, we're proposing to maintain that wood line there. We kept our grading pulled away so that we didn't have to go in and disturb all those trees. So that was the plan, was to leave that tree line in place. We wouldn't really be able to go in there and plant underneath that existing canopy. But that's something that we could discuss with the commission, but that's what we have currently proposed.
Eliza Sosa. Jose Sosa?
Hello, I'm Jose Sosa. I live at 98 Jacks Hill Road. That's gonna be this property right here. Couple concerns. Like I said, we have a bunch of kids that live in the whole area, right across, next door. Facility's probably gonna get built. My main concern is, does the main entrance have to be on Jacks Hill when this road right here is a quiet road? It's a dead end. It'd be much easier. That relieves traffic. Whatever traffic that might build up, can that be, put onto this side of the road? And the next major concern is we really don't want to look at that. If it's going to get built, it's going to get built. Is there any way to put some sort of pine type of tree line on the two major sides where our properties are at, where we're really not going to look at it? We'll be able to see a tree line that's going to block sound, that's going to block light, and it's a lot easier on the eyes. That's the main concern that I have.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take some of these questions. I think I'll discuss with the owners between now and the next hearing as far as the landscaping and what we plant there. But we do have some significant trees proposed, and I know you're not on North Larkey Road, but there is a pretty solid row of arborvitae along that street. It is a low traffic use, so like I said earlier, I don't think you're going to find any kind of a business in an industrial zoned property that's going to have a lower impact and less amount of traffic than a self-storage facility. So we do need the main entrance on Jacks Hill Road, because Jacks Hill Road is wider and we have the required sight line available to us, and we can get the turning movements in for vehicles to come in and out. We kind of just provided this entrance on North Larkey as a service entrance, and then just kind of also just to have an emergency exit in case it was necessary. But we do need to have the main entrance on Jacks Hill Road, to answer your question. Also, North Larkey Road was just recently paved, and it's very narrow. It's not really wide enough to get vehicles turned out of the facility onto North Larkey Road. And I will discuss the trees and the screening with the applicants before the next hearing.
Scott Besiegel?
The same woman. Oh, okay.
She declined.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Scott Bisiegel. I live at 74 Jacks Hill Road, which is approximately 3 residences this way from the proposed site. My main concern is the aesthetics of the building and the fencing. Most of these storage facilities are ugly. They usually use chain link fences, if there's a fence at all. And this is bordering a residential area. So aesthetics, I think it should be the committee's main concern regarding the material that the fence is made of, to actually make it look nice. Maybe not even see the buildings at all. These buildings are metal. They're not very pretty to look at. If this proposed site was for a light industrial building, like we have many of those in town already, usually the facade of the building is decorative. It's made of stone. It has glass. It's not that ugly. These buildings are very ugly. That's pretty much my main concern. And my other comment is I understand this driveway here does need to be on Jacks Hill Road, but wouldn't it make more sense to put it in the center and get it away from the residences over here, move it to the midline of the property line? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would assume these are things you'll have to discuss with your client.
Yep, some of those the fencing we will discuss and respond at the next hearing. As far as the entrance go, we typically like to keep that as far away from the intersection as possible. And we need to also put it in a place where we can get the grades to work. So put it all the way over to the east. And there is still a fairly respectful buffer between the entrance and the easterly property line there. So it's a lot smaller, but there's essentially, that's where the existing entrance is into the property on Jacks Hill Road, and we kind of tried to maintain that location.
Have one more. Jason Corbett?
Hi, I'm Jason Corbett. I'm 99 Jacks Hill Road. I'm the property right next to it. One of my main concerns is going to be the drop in property values for the residents, all the residential housings. We almost feel like we're forced to sell our house now before any of this gets going. And then another concern is, I mean, that's our backyard where you're directly looking at all of that stuff. So that little tree line, it's just a single row of trees going down there. I mean, winter comes, I could see straight across to the cemetery. I mean, if this is gonna happen, I'd be willing to take all those trees down to do something, but that's gonna be a huge eyesore for us. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? No more on the list. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak at this time? Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak at this time?
Hi, Peter Calcandy, 1051 Augusta Drive. Is there any kind of fire suppression system in the buildings? The fact of the matter is you don't know what's being stored in these warehouses. And in the event of any kind of spontaneous combustion of some toxic chemicals, being so close to residential properties, I think that would be a concern of this board to consider. We don't know. You know, it's somebody stores fertilizer, somebody stores any kind of chemicals or what have you. With no fire suppression, you know, it could create a problem for some of the people in the area. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else in the audience? Is there anyone else? Hearing none, back to the commission.
Chair,
Yes.
second to the last page.
Pardon me? Oh, I didn't see you with the thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, Pete.
That's all right.
Hi again, Roseanne Cox, 582 Putting Green Lane. After listening to some of the abutters, I totally agree that the value of their land will be depreciated by this project going in. And I'm wondering if that is part of the criteria with the special exception article that you have in any of your departments or zoning board, ZBA or anything, any judicial board in town, is that one of the criterias for approval, that the land value of the abutters is not affected?
Let me refer that. Kevin, is there anything on that?
One of the things that has to be remembered is this was converted to an industrial zone, I don't know how long ago, before my time, and maybe Pat and
Nope, it was here already.
so when it's industrial land, the valuation of property is already considered in what the industrial zoning would do to it. So that's part of the factoring that's already been considered in property values. Now, the properties that are there in the industrial zone right now are what are called valid non-conforming uses. Because the zoning has changed around you, that residential use can continue until it's discontinued by an owner of the property sometime in the future. It doesn't have to be discontinued, but if it was, then it could become an industrial lot.
So if a lot of the homeowners there sold their properties, they could sell it, it would become industrial.
It could be sold as industrial, but if I was to buy your house, for instance, I could buy it and continue to use it as a residence.
Because it's existing, it's grandfathered.
But if I gave that up and became industrial, now that's what it would be. And it wouldn't be able to go back to being residential sometime in the future.
Because it seems I'm pretty new to Connecticut and to Oxford, but I notice a lot of land is industrial. I can't believe how much industrial there is. And I don't know what the tax values of industrial properties are compared to residential. I think nice residential might be worth more. And, you know, maybe it's time to rezone some of these industrial areas. We seem to have an awful lot, especially in heavily residential areas. Why not rezone those areas back to residential and not allow any more industry? I know if I was in a butter, I wouldn't be happy. And as far as trees go, as long as they're not deciduous, that they're going to lose their leaves, the trees, the arborvitaes that are there now are fast growing, and if you put them up in a berm, you get even more height. So, okay, thank you.
But Mr. Chairman, but there are considerations when it's a special exception like this that the commission does consider, and some of those issues have been raised by the neighbors, Mr. Corbett's issues about, and Mrs. Corbett's issues about their sideline. Those are issues that the commission does consider and tries to diminish the impact of a property being built in an industrial zone, which they have the right to do that, but also taking into account some of the comments made. The gentleman who made the comment about moving the driveway, maybe that's something that can be looked at. So there are ways to lessen the impact, but at the same time, the applicant has the right to design their project the way they design it, and if it meets our regulations, we can sharpen it and make it better, but we take everyone's input in.
But it would be great to rezone these residential areas back to residential. I feel there's just way too much. Every time I turn around, there's another metal building going up, and they don't do much for the tax base either. So, thank you.
Okay, anyone? Go ahead, Pete.
According to the paperwork here, on the second last page, there's a page fence on here. Is this the fence you're putting in? You said you didn't know what kind of fence is going in.
That's a detail we have for the dumpster enclosure. I have to confirm with both of the owners that that's what fence they were proposing for the perimeter of the property.
All right,
We'll provide a detail and confirm for the next hearing.
All right, if it's going to be a page fence, find out if there's going to be slots put into it.
Will
That's what
do.
I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, there's next to it, there's this something from Slat Source.
Yeah, I noticed that. He said he doesn't know what they're going to do.
All righty. Sarah?
Through the chair. You had mentioned open to the general public. When someone asked, you said, yes, it would be. Does that mean that someone who does not have a unit there or is not in the process of procuring a unit would be able to enter the property, or is it only for those people who are using and renting the storage units?
Well, if they had an appointment to come rent a unit with the owner or whoever's on site, the employee, then they would be allowed to enter. But typically, these units have a keypad, and that will grant you access into the property.
That was my question, that
Yes.
someone
So
couldn't just
what-
wander in and knock on the door
No,
and say, can I
no.
rent
They
a
would
unit?
generally, the gates are closed, and, you pull up, there's enough room between the gate and the street to park your car. You pull over to the keypad, you slide or you have your card read, and then you're allowed entrance.
Okay, that was my concern, to make sure that there was a control over who entered and exited the property. Thank you.
And then the more advanced ones have a system where you pull in, and then you can actually secure and rent a unit and do all that right through an electronically controlled system there.
Do you know what type of system the owners are planning, whether they're going to have a manned system or fully automatic?
At this point, they plan to have an employee there during operating hours.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So there was a question from the public about types of materials being stored. Is there any restrictions on the types of material, hazardous material, from being stored inside of the units?
We read your zoning regs, and we basically would follow what's allowed in your zoning regs. I believe it's section 9.2.3. Let me see if I can just handle it, but I believe the zoning regulations cover that, what's allowed to be stored there. But that would be made known to any of the potential people who would be renting the units there.
Thank you.
It's section 10.11.4. It's storage of caustic, hazardous, or toxic materials. The storage of any caustic, hazardous, or toxic materials or waste materials, thereof shall be prohibited.
So there'd be posted limitations that are in alignment with the regulations?
And it would be in their leases also.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Presumably, everyone who's got a storage unit there will have an agreement with the company that's running the storage units. That agreement will dictate limitations on what can be stored there, and
Correct.
the criteria that will come up and make sure that it's properly within the guidelines of zoning regulations, and it can be more restrictive by the owner of the storage as what can be stored there.
That's correct. Like I said, it would be in their lease for the unit, what's allowed and not allowed. And
Sarah?
Question primarily, I guess, for the commission or for the applicant. Has this been sent to the fire marshal for approval yet? There was a concern raised by the public of fire
We have to
suppression.
have a sign off by the fire marshal, whether it's actually been sent or not yet, I don't know.
That has not yet been initiated?
It's not built yet, so once they build architecture,
There's no approval, so
it's a fire first.
we did receive approval from WPCA for sewer. And there is public water there. Wetlands also, yes.
I've got okay. I don't know if it's a question or a request. I guess it's a little bit of both. Okay, the agreement that the people sign, does that also include relevant information what their home or business address is, so that we know who's in there?
That I would have to find out from the.
Yeah, I don't
the
expect you to have it off the
actual
top of your head.
That-
because you
Yeah,
don't-
that I wouldn't be able to.
Chairman, if I may, I don't think that would be a public record.
That would, no, but it should be available should there be a problem, and that's what I want to just
I
see
think-
what paperwork the users fill out. Not a finished copy with somebody's name on it or anything. I just want to see what kind of information is going to be available if something should happen and there has to be, warrants and a police investigation and so on and so forth. Is good there, or is there I don't know, this guy drove up and, gave me $50 and I rented him a unit,
That'd be similar to a lease agreement.
Well, it's the standard for the storage units that are operational and is basically a lease agreement that says you're renting it for whatever the term is. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be for a month. And it details what the obligations are. And I'm sure the business is gonna wanna know where the people are, because at some point, if the people just divest themselves of their interest in their, whatever they're storing, then there is a statute that provides for the permission to sell that property, and you have to, there has to be a home. Have you been on any of the storage units, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, I just, I'm gonna keep this.
We can request a copy of that.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd like to see a
I
copy of
think
it.
your point of contact would be the property owner. And then it would-
Exactly, but
Because you have all of his,
for the purpose of the
Right.
public hearing, I'd like to see the blank.
got it.
I'd like to see the blanks.
Blank lease agreement.
Yeah, that's what I just asked for. Yeah. I think that, that helps allay some of the people's concerns as well.
I agree with you.
Okay, is there any more questions from the commission? Anyone? Okay, in that case, I'd like to get a motion to recess. Do we have a date? Can you give me a date?
The next meeting is June 3rd. And you already have the public hearing.
6:17 after that.
Okay. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to recess the public hearing for application Z-25-030 to June 3rd. Is there a time?
We already had, I thought we were gonna do 17th.
Oh,
17th, at what time?
okay. Recess the application to June 17th at 7:30?
7.
7? At 7.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Thank you. Yeah. Let's just take a couple moments while people.
I don't know, what'd you throw? Oh, your head.
I guess so.
There are no minutes.
What? No,
There are no minutes.
we'll run this one now.
Yeah.
Are we ready? Next? Okay. All right, our next public hearing is Z dash. Okay. All righty. All right, let me call the regular meeting of the Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission order, May 20th, 2025 at 7:57 PM. Okay. Thing. I don't have any comments. Okay, approval of minutes.
We don't have any.
We don't have any. Okay. So now we go to the public hearing. Is it okay if I do it now? Thank you. Thank you for your permission. Okay, public hearing for Z-25-025, 154 Bowers Hill Road, owner and applicant Thomas, miserable printing, Salikas, 154 Bowers Hill Road, application special exception to construct a 1,120 square foot barn, Article 5, Section 5.2.5. Yeah, read the call.
Town of Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission legal notice, public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 7:30 PM on the following application. Z-25-025, 154 Bowers Hill Road, owner and applicant Thomas Sleekus and Megan Sleekus, 154 Bowers Hill Road, application special exception to construct a 1,120 square foot barn under Article 5, Section 5.2.5. The public hearing will be held in the main meeting room of the SB Church Memorial Town Hall located at 486 Oxford Road, Oxford, Connecticut. At the meeting, interested persons shall be heard and written communications received. A copy of the application is on file in the Planning and Zoning Department and accessible during regular business hours. You may also request a copy of the application by emailing pnz@oxford-ct.gov. The Planning and Zoning Department's regular business hours are Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., dated at Oxford, Connecticut, this 23rd day of April 2025, by Jessica Pennell, Coordinator, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Good evening, Commission members. So what I'm proposing is demolishing our existing garage, approximately 1,300 square feet, and constructing a new 1,120 square foot structure.
Have any drawings or plans or anything? Okay.
How big is the accessory building gonna be?
Well, no, that's a separate application.
Oh, that's a separate application.
That's a separate, this is just for the
Just to
structure.
demo?
Now, demo and build the structure.
There's two applications.
Barns?
I did send out the mailings. I didn't bring a copy. Copy of the letter that was sent out.
So we've got a structure. I've got a little shaded block on here that's 26.5 feet from the property line. But I don't have any elevations, I don't have anything else. No,
I can't tell how big it is either.
yeah, the exact dimensions, I got a, like I say, I got a little block here. You know, for all I know, it's 1 foot by 1,100 feet. Elevations. Yeah, right, well, that's why he's in for a special exception.
I don't know. All I have is.
Because he's gotta make room for that apartment.
Oh, this is the same one that we have. Larger version of the same.
Although ours have a property now that's bigger than the one that you're proposing. You have a structure now that's bigger than the one you're proposing to build.
Yeah, it's over 1,300 square feet. So what is existing is over 1,300 square feet, and we're proposing 1,120 square feet. Proposing to put it in the exact location of the existing. 72,560 square feet, 1.67 acres.
Yes. Yeah.
The building that you'll be demolishing, is that the same age as the house? I know it's a historic home.
No, it's not.
It's not a historic home.
It is a historic
Yeah,
home.
but
The structure we're demolishing is not the same age as the house.
Okay, they match beautifully, but
Thank you, appreciate it.
I live just up the road. Thank you.
Anyone else? Does anyone else have a question for the applicant?
You're gonna turn this into a bedroom.
What's that?
You're gonna turn this into an assisted living apartment? What are you gonna turn this into?
It's going to be an accessory dwelling unit.
All right, so that means it's gonna be 2 units. On how much acres you got?
1.67.
Putting in an accessory apartment. Over the garage.
All right, thanks.
I have nothing. Seems pretty straightforward. I know we're missing, or not missing, but lacking maybe some other things that we would normally see, but it's fairly straightforward. It seems like a pretty straight construction, typical framework, consistent with the existing home, right?
exactly.
All of that stuff,
Even
along
with
the existing driveway that
even with
already
the
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With the nature of the
Seems
property.
consistent with a lot of the other ones we've seen over,
Yeah,
the year and
this
last
is
year.
kind of sketchy.
I mean,
It's not enough information for me.
when we get packets of information for an industrial lot and then we suddenly go down to a residential garage, it does seem a little bit underwhelming. But I would say, given the area, given the building, we're taking down something existing, we're putting something else
I'd like
up.
to see more of the building. That's what
Yeah.
I want to see.
I think the rendering shown looks great, looks consistent,
Yeah,
nothing
but that's
really
one
crazy.
space. There's
Yep.
3 other.
It's a really beautiful looking box is what it ends up being. So,
Yeah, I mean, from what
I think
I-
some of the meat of what
But
most
I
of.
don't, a quick look at that drawing.
Right.
It almost looks like there's a balcony the whole way to that building.
Yeah.
I don't know that because I'm seeing, if I saw the side view, I could see, is there a balcony or not,
And I would say not to complicate it, I think more of the concern is around a following application, which is really not part of this, so we shouldn't confuse the two. There's probably lots of questions to have on the next application. This is really, you know, what are we building? And we've seen a few of these, right, coming through with prefabs, coming through with traditional construction or what have you. To me, again, it seems pretty straightforward. The facade seems consistent with the area, with the house, with the historical house that you have. So that is my only comment to it. It seems pretty typical.
Any other questions from commissioners? Sir?
So,
Correct. Correct. About 3,400 square feet. 1740. Judge Ferdig's house, if you're familiar with Judge Ferdig.
other components of our square footage requirements, it meets that. How's that, better? Yeah. Sorry about that. Jessica will scold me later. So those are some of the concerns I had, just on the square footage basis, Mr. Chairman.
So we're covered. I guess where I'm trying to get right now, well, not right now. First, have I done with the commission's questions for the moment? Okay, going out to the public. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment on this application? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment? Okay, if there's no one, back to the commission. Okay, if there's going to be no more questions, I will probably entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay. Moving on. Don't go too far, as now comes the hard. All right, next thing is Z-25. Oh, wait a minute.
No, we just
Good,
did
good. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Any correspondence? Audience of citizens. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment or question something that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone in the audience that wants to question or comment? Sir, come up, please.
Voice 318 Spruce Hill Drive. There was going to be some discussion on the zoning amendment for 11 Oxford Road. Just curious if there's going to be an update provided here, or will that happen after?
That's scheduled for when?
next on the agenda.
Actually, my understanding was that for us was for the text amendment.
Right, it was for a text amendment, not for 11 Oxford Road.
Okay. So then will there be public comment on the amendment?
No, that was the public hearing that was now
So,
closed.
so the letter that I work for the water company, the letter that we submitted, I'd like a confirmation that it's going to be read into the record, both the letter from March and the letter from last week.
It's, because the public hearing is closed, we can't take in any new information. I'm going to refer to our attorney for this, please.
Commission closed the hearing, and any correspondence from anyone that comes in can't be made part of that record at this.
So what is the status of the text amendment?
Text amendment is in the deliberation portion for the commission, and they have to make their decision.
Will that be this evening?
It's up to the commission.
We may or may not discuss it in detail. I don't know at this point how much discussion we'll have on it,
Okay,
if
thank you.
people are prepared or not.
Chairman, do we have the letter? He said one was sent in March.
No.
That was not.
Okay. No, please. Kevin, would you please handle this?
Yeah, sure. Once a public hearing closes, we can't take information in from any party, and if we did that, we would be coloring the application.
I was here in March, and the letter was not read into the record, nor was it acknowledged, and it didn't make the minutes. So I leave that.
You were here in front of this commission?
No, it was not. It was part of the zoning, I was part of the conservation wetlands hearing.
Oh.
So just so long as the March letter makes it to the legal record, I think we're good.
Well, the March letter was read into the Wetlands Commission.
No, it was not in the minutes.
I was at the meeting, and I heard it being read.
Only the person who wrote the letter, not the contents of the letter.
What I'm saying is the commission had that as part of their
Okay, so
consideration.
long as it's part of the record, I'll be fine.
It won't be a part of the record here, because what we get from the Wetlands Commission is what their action is, up or down on an application, and that's referred to us. So whatever they consider doesn't really come before us. And much like, I'll just so you understand, much as that commission had a specific property before it, all we have is a text amendment before it. We don't have a specific.
I understand the separation, and I think it's ridiculous because it is for 11 Oxford Road. Whether or not it's in writing or not, it doesn't matter. We'll catch you guys in the planning and zoning hearing.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. Plus mistake.
Okay, where are we?
Just finished.
Audience of citizens. Okay, we're going to start old business. Okay, Z-25-026, 154 Bowers Hill Road. The application for an 800 square foot accessory dwelling. Go at it.
So we're proposing an accessory dwelling unit in that 1,120 square foot structure
Of 800 square.
800 square foot finished.
You have floor plans, drawings. Now that's relevant.
What's that?
I didn't have one in this packet before, an actual floor plan. I thought you guys had.
No, but you came in and I said we have to make adjustments.
I didn't know we were presenting.
Could you bring over what you have?
Well, no, you this is just, this is a site plan.
No,
You have
this is-
special.
That's for the ADU? Right.
It does not have a floor plan on it.
You have a foundation plan. And you have first floor electrical
It's got
plan,
the electrical plan, so I mean, you can get an idea of.
second floor plan. So you have an idea of what you might do? If we could pass that along, and there are some elevations on that plan as well that the commission was asking for before.
You've got an 1,100 square foot building, and you're telling me you're only going to have a 800 square foot apartment. What am I going to do with that extra space?
That's where the floor plan would come in. I'm
That's
given
where
the,
we need the floor plan.
well, given the
exactly.
pitch of the roof and the way that design is, I could see a way to it, but it'd be
Right.
fair enough to see like what that design plan was, right?
There's elevation drawings in there and everything also.
Purposely.
So you can see this, each side of the building.
Yep, okay. But does that give us the finished rough plan, or does it give just the exterior rough?
No, it's got the finished rough plan in there. Yep. One bedroom, one bathroom.
Only be one bedroom.
Right.
Only be a maximum of 800 square feet.
I was able to figure this out.
The dimensions of the structure are 28 by 40, I believe. Correct.
So they consider this to be the accessory dwelling unit?
Is there an area here on the plan that's a storage, correct?
That's unfinished, unheated storage.
Have to make a decision.
There.
I don't like it.
These guys are not, no one can hear that. Sorry, we're gonna hear it. I already put on monitor. So, do you want me to make a copy or something so everyone can have it, so that we're not, or have a copy of the actual floor plan?
They're looking at it right now.
I know. Go ahead, Diamond, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no, Diamond.
You know what I mean?
Well, if I can, I'll help. There are plans here, and there's elevations, and there's somewhat of a floor plan with some detail to it. If the commission wants to take a look at it, we can, but it may be more helpful to have more detail in front of the commission, and which gives us an idea of the square footage, and the applicant can maybe speak to what's on the plans, but that would be helpful for us.
No, I wasn't aware. I mean, I can give a description of what's going on in the plan and tell you everything that's there and to move this. There's,
I said we have two applications.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're both on the agenda.
Do you have your scale with you?
Scale?
Yeah, I need to hear.
A ruler would do it, quarter inch.
Okay. Or a ruler, if you don't have a scale. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Which is the
struct-
1120. I think what was really needed, and
Is
if I,
the square footage back?
The problem I see, I can see the accessory
Yeah.
unit, and it's probably 800 square
Yeah.
feet, but it opens into a storage
Right,
area.
yeah.
You know?
Which suddenly can become another bedroom.
Which can
That's the-
suddenly become another bedroom, which is the same issue we had before, and I'm, you know,
Quarter. There we go.
three and a half.
3.5. Three and a half by, let's say, 5.25.
5 1/4.
Seven. By 4.5. On a calculator?
791. It's 800
791 without this,
without that.
and the stairs. I didn't count the stairs.
So it's the same issue I've seen before.
Right,
You know?
that's the,
You know.
the issue is the access to that, not space.
What's the roof line on that look like? What's the roof line look like on that? I saw the rendering, but it was like a, I think,
It's in there.
is it in there? So I guess I guess more importantly, what I'm getting at is like, we all know on those steeper roof pitches, second floor, that's not habitable space necessarily. Not saying that is or isn't for this, I'm asking that space that's for storage, right? Is that like space that you could fully walk into, or is it because of the roof pitch, you're pulling that wall in?
There is a dormer.
There's
There's a dormer on each side.
in that space?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you to maybe describe to these guys what the issue is, meaning the storage accessible to the apartment.
Okay, our accessory apartment thing limits it to 800 square feet. Okay, you've got a building here, which is, and 800 square feet and one bedroom. Okay, there's no option for a second bedroom or over 800 square feet. The way your floor plan is laid out, once you build it, you can turn around, make that another bedroom. And that's not allowed under our regulation. Okay, so how do we deal with that?
It's going to be unfinished, unheated. No access from the first floor.
But there's access
Yeah,
from.
but there is access.
There's no attic space in this, so it's storage for, well, my in-laws. They'll be coming from a 2,500 square foot house, and
I'm just voicing our concerns, okay?
Off the front, as I'm assuming the back of this, right, is a deck that you're planning?
If you look at the elevations, it's a deck.
So, out of curiosity, you kind of L-shaped this, fronting most of it onto the deck, right?
what's that?
In the design, you have it L-shaped so that you have the majority of the front line against that deck or whatever. I guess, would there be any, like if we switched that and you had access to that storage, not directly from the apartment, would that be something that you would entertain?
Yeah,
Just
we look into that.
on the other side, I will say, at some point, like, the regulation's 800 square feet. They're giving us a plan for 800 square feet, and they're giving us a plan for storage that is not livable space the way that it is. At some point, we really have to trust our residents and their plan, and if it goes beyond what the regulation allows, then it should be handled accordingly. But this is not real, and I understand what you're saying. It's a slippery slope, could very easily turn into a 1,000 square foot, but we're being presented with a plan. We have to, at some level, trust the applicants and the residents.
How about trust but verify?
And that's fine, because it has to go through the building permitting process, it has to get inspected and all of that, and I'm sure our building inspector, being aware of the regulation and what he's inspecting too, would alert our zoning enforcement officer of any nonconformance. That would be my only say. Now, if there's a way to ease it in between, that's why I'm just bringing up, like, would that be something, and then would that make it easier, right? But just throwing out there that even with the last application where we saw this, there has to be some level of trust in that we're following the regulation, we're being presented with a plan that follows the regulation. We have to believe that that is the direction it's going in. That's my opinion on it.
I would just
Personally, I'd feel more comfortable if the building had an 100 square foot footprint.
I got it, and I would have been more comfortable if we had made the ADU
And then it
1,000
would
square
be more
feet for this very
conforming.
reason. However, we're not there, so.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said I would have been more comfortable with 1,000 square foot ADU because this is exactly the reason for proposing
I know
it.
what I'd have been comfortable.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Should be changed.
Why?
Should be changed back to the 500.
Well, that's another issue. We'll deal with that when the time comes.
So I have to inspect before that.
We'll see how that, I don't think we're prepared today. We still gonna need a motion and stuff for this.
Steve has to inspect it well as the building official.
Right.
Before he gives his CO, so I mean.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Comments, questions?
no, I'm good.
Thank you. Are we prepared? Z-25-009, proposed amendment to the Oxford zoning regulations, plan development district. Are we prepared to discuss that tonight? Are we prepared to discuss that tonight? Nobody says yes.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I cannot discuss this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And certainly this would not be the only night to discuss it.
Oh, it
I
won't
don't
be
think
the only
anybody's prepared to. I will say, and as I said in the meeting, it may be a starting point. I don't know that it's something we want to just blindly pass. I think we as a commission should really sit down and assess it and decide what's best for the town before
That's
we
why
ever go
I
there.
don't know if anybody was really prepared for that level of discussion tonight.
Right. So, but I think as we come back to this, we should be thinking, at least I will be thinking
And
along those
hopefully
lines.
everybody will be prepared at some point that we have to discuss this.
And we have till when to,
Deadline?
65 days after.
Is it, even though it's a regulation?
Because there are obligations under the statute, and it's not our proposal that came before us. It's an applicant's proposal.
Okay, so it's, yeah, technically, I guess we're stuck with some deadlines.
Yes, we are.
So why don't we make sure we are prepared to discuss this at our next meeting?
because I think it only gives us 2 meetings to talk about it
On-
after this,
Yeah,
unless we ask for an
if-
extension.
If we're up against a deadline, we're up against a deadline. My assumption was that because it was a text amendment, we had an open end, like when we did the others.
But yeah, I think in the last ones, we were, give ourselves the extensions we needed.
Roughly, Mr. Chairman, it gets us out somewhere in July 24th or so we do have some time.
So I think the next meeting, we should be prepared to at least start discussing it. We don't have to finalize it at that point, but
Probably around July 10th, I should say. Carl was checking my math, and he was going, that was really off.
all right. All right, then let's, do I had a motion to table?
I'll move to table them.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Corey walk. Okay, next thing is Z-25-045, 300 Oxford Road. Owner and applicant, Oxford Town Center, 300 Oxford Road, Oxford, Connecticut. Application conceptual plan amendment, and it's to amend the concept plan for mixed-use residential on a portion of the Oxford Town Center area of Quarry Walk. So we need to set a public hearing date. Today.
I think I'm gonna come on. Just feel that guilty. So unless it rains on Monday. So I'll be here on the 17th. That Tuesday, I'll just come later in the day. But June, that, or you can do. That's on
June 17th, when do we get this done?
Got one.
What do we have for June 3rd already? The horses?
17th, we just recessed the last one to that.
What do you think? Well, which one would you rather be confronted with?
I think we could do this one on the 3rd.
Think so?
This one, is there enough time to set this for the 3rd? I thought I heard, no, so it has to be the
Oh,
17th.
oh,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Not for the third.
Then the 17th. So I do have a motion.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for Z-25-045 on June 17th. I'll make it for 7:10, because we have one starting at 7. Here at this location.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Now we've got Z-25-046, which is tied in with -045. So I think we should discuss that at the same time. Anybody disagree?
We'd hear that during our regular.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Agreed.
winner.
Okay. So, I'm gonna do, and I assume we have all the documentation. We have all the documentation for all of this?
For which one? For 2-6, yes. Sign is pending.
Okay, so 045 and 046, we should have all the documentation for.
Yes, except the signs.
Okay,
Everything's here, statement of use. Smoothie place.
state of the use, drawings, elevations, all that stuff, okay.
You're ahead of us, I think. I think you're ahead of us. I think he's talking about the last two that we just, or the, yeah. Not, no.
Sorry, I'm ahead of you.
Okay. All right, so we have it then. We have what we need. Okay. Next thing, zoning enforcement. Report of the ZEO.
I'm sorry, what?
You're up. Is your mic on? Is your microphone?
I have 2 use permits I gave you. 043 and 042. One is for the smoothie place, which went out, and another smoothie place is coming in. And I'm waiting on the signs. And the other one is the second floor above Better Beagle. There's a statement of what they do there.
It's a commercial use.
Yes.
Okay.
They do, grounding therapy and also there's on the third page.
Which building is this?
So this is second floor
Above what?
above the Better Beagle.
Is that the Sitting Duck building?
Yes.
Yes.
Didn't they change the statement of use to apartments on the second floor?
Yes, the apartments were going to be there, but
Yeah, the apartments are gone.
that's gone.
They're not doing that.
Oh, that's good thing to know.
That's,
Who knew?
What else is new?
what?
They get a building.
Well, that's being replaced by this other building.
So that means he has 22 buildings empty up there then?
No, he's refilling it with commercial use.
Going back to its
Saying
original
he's
use.
going
Back to what he was doing before.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, got you covered.
We didn't change anything. We allowed him, if he wanted to do the residential. And then because of the questions and so on, he decided against that, is going back to commercial up there.
Gonna ask, like, what happens to that approval if 9 months down the road, a year?
Well, we'll make sure that
guess
it's
that-
dealt with.
So
Let's just say that. We'll make sure it's dealt with when they come in with this other application.
So should that not have gone back in front and say, hey, we're going back to original use? Because we technically changed that use on the second floor. Should we not have seen that again and say, hey, we've decided to change directions, we're gonna go back to original, and that's what we're gonna use it for?
I would say, because there was a question on whether it actually was an allowed use there or not. So it was kind of a, okay, you know, the whole thing with the definition of that's a PDD, believe it or not. That's actually a PDD, okay?
Absolutely. Question valid. However, there's an approval on the books saying, yes, go use this. And there's nothing saying, well, we changed directions, so now I'm abandoning that use that you gave me approval for. I don't think there's anything stopping him in 9 months to say, no, I'm going back to the residential or what. So
How about when he comes in this other application, which we have to sit on, part of the conditions of approval would be the abandonment of that.
if that's a valid
I mean,
way to go handle
We
it.
can't go into the heavy discussion on that right now, but that would be, or maybe we can ask him in advance for an abandonment of that use.
Yeah, I guess whatever's the most appropriate path
However,
forward on
the
that.
easiest to deal with, so that we don't have the new use versus the old use and all that other stuff.
And it's not to say against what we did, it's more of just clarity of what's happening
Crossing the
there.
Ts and dotting the Is.
Right,
Yeah,
and
I
knowing,
agree with
right,
you.
and knowing, and even the public knowing what's happening,
And
because certainly questions
I was
come
under
up.
the impression that the abandonment was going to come in at the same time this application came in.
One thing that can be said is that when you're making a residential change, you have issues that affect the Water Pollution Control Authority. That issue is a significant issue because the usage that's residential is more significant than a usage that's an office. So once that change is made, there's a consideration that this commission has to make sure that the Water Pollution Control Authority has acted to it and doesn't have to react to it. So we would need to be that clarified whether those properties above the commercial are no longer being considered as residential. For us to even go forward and consider any new residential in that project, because that's going to have an impact on issues like that.
Mr. CEO,
Yes.
can you contact the appropriate people and ask for a letter of abandonment of that residential use? Your job.
So I have one more thing, the lights.
Yes.
I'm getting, some calls about
Um, to- Yeah, I would say two things. One, I believe at the last meeting, we said that it, you know, not our circus, okay? Okay, I had asked at that time, if I'm not mistaken, for documentation to be sent to the head of the ARPA Fund Committee and to the Park and Rec Director. You know, maybe we should also make sure that it's copied to the Park and Rec Commission. That's the money that was used to put those lights up.
Do we care about what money was used to
No, but we care about the contracts and the approvals to put the lights up.
So the contract, I saw the contract.
Hey, it's all right. I saw that too.
There's also a video out
That's what I'm saying. This is outside of our,
there. So I just need to know, do I give it to economic development?
write a formal letter, not an email. Write a formal letter and get it to, I believe, and if you check the minutes from the last meeting, about who it should be sent to. But if I didn't say it, also make sure that you address not only the Park and Rec Director, but the Park and Rec Commission. Somebody's got to pay attention to it, and it's not us. And,
So if say someone
Question is, does the charter exempt the town from our regulations as far as zoning is concerned?
I would think no. They're having bands every night at the town hall making crazy.
Probably not.
I think they should just take the lights down, have the kids play someplace else.
We are, right? So the town has the charter, and municipalities are able to exempt themselves from zoning regulations and applying for zoning permits and
Right,
things like
applying
that.
for permits and not violations. Applying for permits, yes, but not violations.
So if there's a determination that this is a violation, then we'd have to probably send it to who's ever in charge of those lights, which is probably the Park and Rec Commission.
Was it Babe Ruth?
I think Babe Ruth has a lot to do with it.
Just,
no, because they only schedule their games there. They don't own the park.
But they did
And the Park and Rec Department does the scheduling.
Typically, what happens, if you are a league in town, not even, you have to apply to the Park and Recreation Department to get authority to utilize one of their facilities as your own, so that one league has use of it, and if someone else wants to use it, they have to get in line to use it some other time. So I think the appropriate place to go would be Park and Rec and say, hey, if we have an issue, here's the issue with the lights, send a formal letter, start the ball rolling, and then we can make a determination if they need to come in to see us. But that light trespassing is such a big issue. We already heard it in one of the presentations tonight. Everyone's concerned about the light coming off their property and trespassing.
And we do have something in our regulation about lights, not just an ordinance. Noise is only as an ordinance, but we have something in our regulations about light.
it says it can't leave the property.
So it's not just a charter issue, it's also a...
Aircraft, cars, or neighbors.
Right.
We've been talking about this, and I honestly really feel, but Park and Rec literally had nothing about what.
But isn't that failing doesn't exempt them?
But I'm not saying it exempts them, but I'm saying, you know, I feel like somebody went over their head.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And as a town, like, we should be taking care of each other.
So you're telling me that Park and Rec had no idea whatsoever that somebody was putting up poles and mounting lights on that field?
Nobody actually told them.
Nobody
what they
told
were
them,
doing.
but they didn't know this? They're not aware?
I think, to Jessica's point, the commission, Park and Rec, we don't know what they knew, but from a procedural standpoint, we have to start somewhere, and you have to start with who's the boss of the field, which is Park and Rec. And then they have to determine what they have to do
Right.
in enforcing whatever needs to be enforced. And if they have a potential of having a problem with their property, you know, if an analogy would be a landlord-tenant. If the landlord has a problem, the tenant's causing a problem, the landlord's getting contacted.
But you know what? It's not Park and Rec's property, it's the town's property. It's not in Park and Rec's name.
But
So maybe
they
we should send it to the
have
town.
authority over that area. I just can't go there tomorrow with 9 or 18 people and play a baseball game. Just go over there because it's town property, so it's public. I'm going over there and I'm gonna play a baseball game. No, I can't.
Got a question. Who okayed
No,
the,
there's no other, exactly. So
Who
it's gotta
okayed-
be scheduled.
who okayed the payment of lights?
Who okayed the payment?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't get involved in that.
Was paid for by the ARPA funds.
So who's the head of the ARPA funds?
Larry Ellis,
No.
wasn't he? You know,
We'll send a letter to ZBA.
listen, I can write a letter to him, whatever you want me to do.
And, you know,
I think what you should do, based on everything I've just heard, Park and Rec gets it, copy the selectmen on it.
Yeah.
And then,
I
and
think
that,
that's fair.
Park and Rec gets what? I'm sorry.
the letter goes to Park and Rec, copy the selectmen on it. That way they have it, and I know there's been correspondence back and forth to the selectmen, so they'll be aware of it, and maybe everyone at that point can kind of deal with the issue. Because if you think about it, if you have a light stand next to your house and it's shaking with the wind, the fear is gonna fall down. If it's blinding you and coming off the property, it's just lousy way to live.
Please understand, I am not dismissing the concerns of the people that live around it. I'm trying to find out who has to fix it. Somebody got to fix it. And I'm sorry, but I am, you know, I still have my climbing harness, but I'm too damn old to go up the poles now.
I think.
So I can't fix it.
But I don't think Park and Rec should have to hear from other people that we're discussing this. Do you know what I mean? Like, why aren't we being like upfront with them? We've had, like, literally, we've been here for like, how many meetings now that we've discussed it, and nobody has talked to Park and Rec.
That's not true.
It's not our,
But we have, but nothing official,
I gave you
right?
the email I got from those two people to Kara, and Kara shared all that with their commission.
I instructed him to forward those to Park and Rec. Now, whether he did it or not, I mean, I don't, you know, babysit him and change his diaper. Not my job.
Thank you for the visual, Mr. Chairman.
My question was, what do you want me to do?
So,
I can write a letter tomorrow, I'll give it to Parker Rec and Board of Selectmen.
I'm getting very frustrated with this, as you've probably just noticed.
if we could just, Steve should send the letter, you should cite the portion of our regulations, specifically send them a copy about light trespassing, and they have that in their hands, and then they can deal with it as they see.
I already have one typed up.
So let's send it. Otherwise,
I'll
we're
look
gonna
at it
put
tomorrow.
Linda in charge.
All right, I will handle it. All right, we gotta let her go.
All right. Is there anything else? From you? Okay. That sounded awful quick there, Steve.
Invoices.
Okay, invoices. Do we have any invoices?
We have one invoice from the McSherry Law Office, 38 Fairview Avenue, Naugatuck, Connecticut, it's dated May 2nd, 2025, covers from March 1st to May 2nd, 21 3/4 hours at $190, $4,132.50. I make a motion to pay the invoice.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, motion carries. Okay, where are we? I've reached the next level of frustration here.
Other business, any other business?
Is there any other business the commission wishes to discuss? Any other business the commission wishes?
I have one question.
Sure.
About the crematory. I was talking to Steve about it. When they came in front of us, they were gonna run a gas line to the building, if you recall. Now they're gonna put tanks out there, propane tanks. Can we hold, and the reason they got okay, because the Chinese people were assured that he was gonna run the gas line to their business, so they went along with it. And now they're just putting tanks in. Can we hold them to the original? They're gonna run it.
That's what I was told. We also, the town is responsible for the sewer pump station.
Yeah, it's actually on the drawings.
Right.
The gas line down here, the water, the sewer, there's a pump station that we have to pay.
So,
And that site is like this close to
it's that close to what?
becoming a brownfield. That's warnings were inaccurate. It's unbelievable.
There's,
They want what you call a pig, basically.
yeah.
It's in rough shape.
Yeah. See, what that was an area that when they were building the power plant, they leveled out to use as a lay-down area, parking area. They turned around, and apparently, they didn't do it right. I don't know who the contractors were, anything else that built them. So the town, when the lot now is turned over to the town, you look at it, hey, looks good, right? And what happened was, from what I've been told, okay, because I'm, again, not an engineer, but what happened was fill was dumped over the top of the existing vegetation and everything else that was there. So now you've got a layer of deteriorating material underneath, which is, this is where when you see things about these houses that well, suddenly there's a big sinkhole, that's why. The biological material deteriorates and now there's no support under what's on top.
So they're gonna build a building on top of this?
Well, explain it.
They have to get down to virgin ground.
They have to give around virgin ground.
Piles,
Taking out more, what's that?
piles,
Piles. And then
put in
the building
piles.
behind them, the distribution center. So we got the lots of the power.
There's all sorts of,
But see, it's not really our problem. Problem is their buildings come in June 2nd or 3rd.
I mean, there's a lot of little anomalies, like for instance, in a whole section of that road up there, all of the underground piping and what have you was put in, and when the engineer, not our engineer, but when the engineer went out to accept the road, right, not our engineer, but the town engineer at that time, right, never looked in the holes. So here's all this pipe under there, no copper in it. No, the road itself, not the pump, the road itself. The power lines were not run the way they're supposed to be.
Was the sewer run to the pump station?
I guess that's what happens when you trust somebody too much.
So they scrambled to put the guts on each side.
I mean,
I know.
And again, these are things that are outside of our control, and, because we have to take the word of certified engineers and stuff, you know? You know, and again, you know, did any of you guys want to go up there and pull the covers and look and see if there was wires in the ground?
If they didn't buy that lot, most lots up there are leased with a big deposit as they build big taxes as they go along. The way the contractors set up. That one and one other one was sold out of.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it was an industrial subdivision. We have the maps on that and stuff.
There's also needed, which is going to come to so I don't know who's going to pay for that. That's a huge area. It's probably 2 to 3 million. I don't know. It's all. Power company gave us the lots. He said.
Get your bicycle. How does it feel to want? How does it feel to want?
You know, so, you know, there's things going on that are, a lot of things that are not under our control.
There's stuff going on.
It's just that our phone number is public, you know? I mean, calls come in, I mean, I've been sitting there talking to Steve when calls come in for some of the most absurd things that, you know, like the people, and I'm not saying they're uneducated, but you would think that, you know, if you're calling about something, you know, think about what department you're calling. If there's a, you know, if there's a problem with, you know, a pothole in your road, why call planning and zoning? Call public works.
Septic systems.
Septic
Need a
system.
copy of my septic system. Well, who sent you there? Called the main number. So, not anymore because we told them up front, septic's handled by health. Kind of socials. Oh, what zone is that?
Motion adjourned.
Well, we're online on 2 all permits. Great. I got one more thing, guys.
I don't.
Oh.
I do.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.